Hey folks, today is Friday, April 12th, 2019. As usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, here to talk about the video game stuff that has been going on this week. And let's just get right into it. Earlier in the week, we did talk about this on the live show. Excuse me if I repeat a couple things, but the newest rumor on the block is that the next Assassin's Creed game will take place in Viking land. Viking themed. Viking town?
Viking land.
Norse stuff. This is, of course, against the previous rumor where Assassin's Creed next would take place in some sort of ancient Rome setting. People have been putting the pieces together through The Division 2, another Ubisoft game. These games usually often hint one another, and what fans have found are images and posters kind of pointing towards Norse mythology. The biggest one, I think, most importantly here, is this dude right here. We'll put the link in the description if you want to see the full source, but it looks like that person is holding like an apple of Eden, you know, the pieces of Eden, the whole lore thing of Assassin's Creed, the part that everybody forgets about except me. There's also imagery that says Valhalla, just a lot of Norse stuff. Of course, also kind of corroborating with a Kotaku report suggesting from an unnamed source that the next Assassin's Creed will be involved with Vikings. So you have things popping up in The Division 2, you have unnamed sources saying that it's going to be a thing. It's still up in the air, but I think it is exciting. What is also exciting, thanks to this new reporting of things found in The Division 2, is that once again, Kotaku, who does have a track record of reporting this stuff, did say that yes, the next Watch Dogs game is taking place in London. With this report suggesting that's the case, and with the game being patched with little things, references to London, and Brixton being added in, this kind of all just adds up. You don't have to take this report for gospel by any means, but I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing it take place in London. That could be really cool. Before we move on, this episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Are you ready to build a website? Maybe build the next gaming news website? Squarespace is all in one and really easy to use for it, so go to squarespace.com and use the offer code Gameranx to get 10% off your first Squarespace order. But next up, now we get to talk about my favorite thing in the world, no matter what any fanboys try and say, Star Wars. The newest news is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Early in the week, we got a little glimpse, a little tease, just a logo, a tagline, and a cool messed up lightsaber. Of course, if you're watching this on Friday, on Saturday at Star Wars Celebration, we're going to get the official reveal of the game. This is, of course, an EA game, so you have every right to be skeptical. I understand that. But it's also being made by Respawn, who has a good track record, and I love Titanfall 2, and Apex Legends is pretty damn good as well. Also, just a heads up, I'm going to be at Star Wars Celebration, mostly Sunday, so if you see me, say hi, let's hang out. But there's really not too much more to go on that, except for a leak, thanks to our buddy Wario64 on Twitter, who I still think is like the best follow for video game information and sales and stuff. You should follow him. Tell him I said hi. But he, of course, was the first person to come across what looks to be an Amazon leak. A t-shirt being sold, a Star Wars t-shirt with Jedi Fallen Order artwork on it. And this artwork is pretty awesome. I mean, we don't really have a lot to go on here. You see a Clone Wars era Star Destroyer crash in the water. You do see one solitary Jedi figure. Can't tell if it's a male or a female, kind of looks female. The little robot companion, I'm sure that's going to be like a gameplay thing. That's all we really have to go on right now, but I'm really excited to just see this game be fully revealed. I know the comments are going to be filled with people bashing Star Wars, bashing EA, and I understand it. But damn it, there's still just a side of me that just like wants a good Star Wars game, so I'm just gonna hold on to that for a little longer. I'm also cutting myself short because I could talk about this and speculate it forever, but by the time a lot of you guys are gonna be watching it, the rest of the reveal will be out. Anyway, in other news, I am happy to finally report that you're finally able to change your name on PSN. If you're playing on PlayStation 4, if you're a Sony person, you know how restrictive it has been, and now it's finally a thing. People have been begging for it forever. Earlier in the fall, it was like in a beta program. Now all people are going to be able to change their names, and it's free the first time, and then after that you have to pay money. Also, you can revert back to your old name. You don't lose your old name if you change it, which I think is very clever. But on the flip side, there's a lot of caveats to this, especially in compatibility with certain games. If you're playing older PlayStation games that haven't been updated to account for this new name change, there could be a variety of different issues that could happen, like whether your name is being displayed or not, whether or not other people in game can see your name displayed. But then there's a potential for deeper issues that they have said, like game saves and leaderboard standings being messed up. So if that stuff is important to you, I'd say think very carefully before changing your name. It's kind of like can you change your PSN name, but like at what did it cost everything. There haven't been widespread support of issues yet. There's been a lot of good jokes and memes about it. But honestly, for PlayStation folks, I'm happy to finally see you guys be able to change your name. Like, some of people hold on to these things like these are legacy accounts, just like Xbox Live accounts are. And you might have a crappy teenager name that you don't like and you want to change it. Funny enough, the PSN menu does suggest different new names for you, and some of them are so stupid. I love it. Now, in other news, a small update that I still found interesting, even if you don't like play or follow this stuff super closely. Fortnite has made a change that kind of reflects what you do in Apex Legends. Essentially, Fortnite has taken one of the best aspects of Apex Legends, the ability to somewhat revive a teammate. Essentially, if someone is downed in that game, you pick up their beacon, you bring it to a respawn beacon, and after a limited time and you being left out in the open, you can bring them back. Fortnite now sort of has this equivalent with these respawn vans, because of course it would be a van. If a squad member dies, they drop these reboot cards, and then that's what you have to pick up and bring to a van. It does seem like it's kind of similar, where there's a timer, you only have a limited time about it, but there's a couple differences. Like, it doesn't seem like there's like on-screen indicators for it, and it seemingly you can use it more than once. I really just thought it was interesting. I wanted to see what you guys think. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily them ripping off Apex, but just taking a creative, I mean, maybe it is a little bit. I mean, the idea of respawning isn't like unique to one game, but I don't really play Fortnite anymore. So if you are, I want to hear what you guys think of this. Definitely let me know in the comments. I really want to hear what you guys think, but I do want to move on over to some stuff we have linked in the description. Just some stuff we think you should catch up on. The first is a new story trailer for Chernobylite. This is the game that has launched a Kickstarter, and it's essentially a deep survival horror game that takes place in Chernobyl, specifically like Pripyat and stuff like that. As someone who is interested in that history, this game looks really cool. They have a Kickstarter now. I haven't contributed to it yet because it is the developers behind Get Even, a game I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I still think it's worth looking into. Like I said, it's linked in the description below. I also have to, Jake's book club, which I do every so often. I say we talk about games so much that you might as well be really read up on them. Well, here is a good long read about the development behind Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This is excellent. We've also linked a new trailer for Rage 2, which kind of details all the enemy types, and you kind of get to see a glimpse of what the humor is like in this game. I'm still kind of iffy on it. And not only that, we also have new character reveal trailers for Mortal Kombat 11. We have Cetrion and the Kollector. I've said it once. I said it like every time we show these things, and we did it with Injustice 2. I think the person that cuts together all these character reveal trailers needs to get a raise. Those are linked down in the description. But also, one last thing, we got our first look at Shenmue 3's biggest character, the Forklift. If you're a Shenmue fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I do want to move on to Splinter Cell. I know we've been talking a lot about Ubisoft games, but they've just been in the news a lot this week, thanks to an interview with Ubisoft head Yves Guillemot, which is a name that I have tried very hard for many years to pronounce properly. I think that's probably the closest I'll get. He had a big, wide-ranging interview with IGN, but he did speak a little bit to Splinter Cell, and I think what he said was pretty interesting. He said that we will eventually see something, and he spoke on like why it's been so long. This quote is really interesting. When you create a game, you have to make sure you will come up with something that will be different enough from what you did before. The last time we did a Splinter Cell Blacklist in 2013, we had a lot of pressure from all the fans saying, don't change it, don't do this, don't do that. So some of the teams were more anxious to work on the brand. But what he did go and say was that there are now some people who are looking at and taking care of the brand. At this point, more and more, we have talked about Splinter Cell rumblings in the past. I've heard some rumblings out there in the world. It seems like it's one of those worst kept secrets, similar to how Borderlands 3 was. I'm pretty sure that there's well enough, definitely a new Splinter Cell in the works. And as it being one of my favorite things in the world, I am so excited. And to hear, a head of Ubisoft kind of go on record saying that there is a team doing something and they give a shit about it, I'm curious to see where it goes. I really don't want to see Splinter Cell turned into a live service game. I like them as single-player, narrative, stealth-driven experiences, which is very interesting considering he said in his interview that fans don't want changes, and that makes it a problem for the people that make the game who want to try new things. That's an interesting clash, and that shit worries me all the time on both ends. People who make the games and fans. It's like, how can everybody be happy? It's almost impossible. But really, I'm a pass that one on to you guys. I think that's a very interesting conversation. That's a whole nother video. But speaking of other things, Dragon Age. A new report has come out this week, thanks to Jason Schreier from Kotaku. But this is sort of an expansion on the Anthem story that we talked about, the deep dive into Anthem's development and the problems internally within BioWare. One of the byproducts of that now with this story is Dragon Age. Apparently, Dragon Age has been facing similar issues and was rebooted in 2017, just because leadership can't really decide on how to move forward and things are stretched so thin, especially when it was all hands on deck and everyone had to get on and try and fix Anthem. Apparently, originally when they set out, they had something good in place. They were able to take the groundwork and right the wrongs from Inquisition and just make and build a better game. But then shit hit the fan with Anthem, and then they essentially had to scrap that and reboot it into something else, which is kind of starting from the ground floor once again, so it's still going to be a while until we see a Dragon Age, possibly. But apparently this one is going to straddle the line between like what fans want and like regular single-player adventures and games as a service. This is, of course, all rumors and hearsay. It's reporting, but I do think that sounds like a bummer. There's a lot more to it. It's a very juicy story, linked in the description below, but I'm just curious to see where this is going to go, considering lately BioWare has publicly admitted that they need to fix things internally to get back to, you know, putting out good quality BioWare experiences, so I wonder if that's going to reflect on Dragon Age. Really curious to see where things go. It's like a sorry state of events, especially for, I know some people who are so diehard about Dragon Age that this could come as a bit of a disappointment, but hopefully eventually we'll see something good. Hopefully a good game will prevail. Like I said, that's just me. I always hope for the best, but that's it. I do want to go into our console giveaway now before we go. You know how this goes by now. Linked in the description below. You click it to sign up, you enter once, then you're entered for good, and then every single week we go in and randomly choose one person to win a free console of their choice. So this week's winner is going to be this person right here. Congratulations. Be sure to keep an eye on your inbox, your spam box, stuff like that, because we're going to be reaching out to you to figure out how to send you your free stuff. So before we go, let's talk about our sponsorship with Squarespace for a minute. Like I said earlier, maybe you want to get into video game news media, maybe you want to make video games, or maybe you want to edit videos for a channel like ours. This is just my advice, but you're going to need a place to host a genuine body of work, and Squarespace is a really good place to start. It's extremely easy to use thanks to a good variety of templates and ways to modify everything to your liking. It's good for me because my web design skills basically relate to just changing the color on my MySpace back in the day. So, are you interested? Head to squarespace.com to start your free trial, and then once you're ready to launch, use squarespace.com/Gameranx to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So let's talk about all this stuff. I want to know what you guys would expect from a new Splinter Cell game. You Splinter Cell diehards out there, I know you guys are like me. Also, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. If you're watching this before the official, actual reveal of Star Wars Celebration, what are your hopes and dreams, and what are your biggest fears? I know what your fears are. You know, we don't want bad monetization, microtransactions, stuff like that. But let's talk about any of this stuff down in the comments. I want to hear what you guys are thinking on all the news this week. Things are going to ramp up soon. A lot of new games are releasing. So let's talk. If you got anything else for me, though, of course, hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Jake Baldino. I'm always over there. But thank you for coming around every Friday and listening to us yap about video games. It's our favorite part of the week. Of course, if you want to find any more of us, we do the Tuesday live show. There's a playlist on the main page of the channel, but we're also live every 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. That's it. So if you enjoyed this, clicking the like button can help us out a lot. We do appreciate that. But if you're new, you should consider subscribing and stuff because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Pizza's on me.